Welcome to Decker Tech. I'm Aaron Decker, and today we're going over the starting decks for Nezglekt. We are doing this on the highest madness. I've just turned off poverty to make the numbers kind of work out since I skipped all of the starting divinations. I just took shards. Normally you'd take some cards and you'd be able to have a little better decks than this. So what you see is basically the worst starting deck you can have. You should always be able to make something better than this for your runs, and this should be a deck that'll get you consistently through the starting acts and making it able for you to. I've beaten the highest madness with this starter deck, so it should get you as far as you need to go. With that, talking about Nez Glick, one of the biggest things to remember is that his passive says that he heals based on the number of insane and sight stacks he has on the enemies. So his healing is based upon applying these curses to the enemies, and the most efficient way to apply these curses are through these damage spells, sight and insane specifically. So Nezglekt is one of those healers where he's going to heal by doing damage. All of his healing is through, or a majority of his healing is through these damage attacks. So what we did first off the bat is we took these mental shakes, upgraded them from the 2 cost to the 1 cost, because we really just can't afford 2 energy for an attack card here. And the 1 cost, they have basically the same amount of curses, and we can just maintain casting or playing these cards more often. Also going to upgrade these Mind Blasts. We need some Vanish cards in our deck to make it more consistent. We want to come down to final 5 cards that we can consistently play to be able to push through these higher difficulties. With that, those are some of our main damage. Mind Visions here, it's one that you could be tempted to cut early and then just craft it again later, but actually near the end of the game you wouldn't mind having 2 of them sometimes. So I keep it in here, and also if you ever have any spare shards, upgrading it to the 3 cost that does triple for sight is a really good finisher card here. This is a card that once you upgrade it, you'll be relying on it for finishing off most of the elites that you fight, because throughout the fight you'll be stacking up the sight on everyone, and then you'll just finish off the elites or do significant damage, 60, 200, those kind of numbers with Mind Vision's not a problem. And since Nezglekt is doing all of this through damage, Inner Fire is one of our staple cards here. Powerful. You want it to stack on all your damage dealers. Nezglekt, even though he is our healer, is definitely a damage dealer. And since all of his damage is through direct damage and his healings through the curses, the powerful is very applicable here. And the nice thing about Inner Fire is it replaces itself, so it's basically thinning our deck by 2 cards, which is exactly what we're trying to do with adding the Vanish cards to our deck. Speaking of Vanish cards, Healing Rain. No healer would be a healer without the staple of Healing Rain. One of the best reasons to run a healer is Healing Rain, at least for the first couple of acts. You'll eventually cut these from your deck, but for the first act, it's really helpful for going through the hatch. It's also just general good healing. For the tree fight, it'll help clear off the laser beam of death fire if you get that far. And if you go to the red biome first of the elemental biomes, this is great for the fire act, just clearing off all those burn stacks. So with the Healing Rains, Inner Fires, and these Mind Blasts, we have most of our Vanish required. Banish here, it's not my favorite. You're definitely going to replace it early on, though. I mean, especially like I said in the hatch, it's always about the hatches, isn't it? Being able to remove those fire brands is nice. Buffer is viable, and it's not a terrible card. Like it's something I'm not going to keep to the end of the game, but for the first couple acts, there's no reason. Like, I'm not unhappy to see it, if that makes any sense. Fanaticism. Nezglekt doesn't necessarily need it as much as others, but especially when you upgrade this Mind Vision to 3 cost, you're going to want that extra energy. And there's very few downsides to running a Fanaticism, even though we're up to 4 vulnerable for the baseline one and 3 for the weaker one. You're always going to want to upgrade it to this yellow one as of currently, just for the energy to card ratio. Let's see. So we ditched the Scries. They're just not impactful. Expected Prophecies, we ditched one of those. Actually, depending on... I left this one in. Normally, I don't actually keep this Expected Prophecy. I kept it in here as a talking point, because depending on what you pick on your level 3 will depend whether or not you want to keep this Expected Prophecy, and or you can always craft one later, but you can only craft one on the higher difficulties. So keeping one from your starting deck is really nice, so you can have two in the later stages of the game, because this is a really strong card depending on what talents you pick up as you go through and play Nezglekt. And if you're not going to go the expected prophecy route, you'll just keep the other Mind Blast and upgrade it. But I'll get to that a little later when we start talking about his talents. And that should be all the cards here. Oh, Dispel Magic. So with if Nez Glick's your only healer and the only one running Dispel, you always need a Dispel Magic. It's one of the first things I'm going to upgrade to the Dispel 3 if I have extra shards in the starting town. And it's just one of the first things. You want to get this upgraded as soon as possible. Later, if you get the extra buffer charges on Nez Glick, you'll want to go to the yellow version. But the blue version is always, like, you're never going to be sad seeing a Dispel in your hand unless you have, like, 3 healers running Dispel Magics, right? So make sure you have at least one Dispel Magic on the team. Having 2 of them is not a bad thing, especially if you don't have a warrior running Shake It Off. But yeah, that should be all the cards for him. Let me know if you have any question on cards. Like I said, the biggest thing is we're just trying to apply Insane and Sight stacks. And these insane cards here, so you can't see it here. I'm in the starting town, but some of the big bomb ones that apply, like Clairvoyance. That's another one that we don't have in here, which maybe I should. It's so expensive. So if you can afford to do it, the upgraded one here for 1 cost is pretty nice to start with. If you can afford the energy, of course, the 2 cost one is better, just because it does the insane stacks and the sight, not just the sight. But I find in the early game, I can't afford to craft it in the starting town unless I have a surplus of shards. But just 2 energy is kind of hard to come by sometimes as well. Lower difficulties, I definitely just run this instead of one of the Mind Blasts or instead of the Banish. But you want these all monsters curse enabling ones. So all monsters sight, all monster insane. You don't want the ones that only do sight. You want the ones that deal damage, because the ones that only do sight are just not... what's the word? They don't... This doesn't do anything. You know what I mean? Maybe even the corrupted one that does all monsters, I'm not going to run it just because it's not doing enough. Yes, it's healing the team a little, but why heal the team a little when I can instead heal the team a little and clear out some monsters so they don't hurt my team? You know what I mean? So that should be enough on the cards. Let's get into his talents. So... Whoops, I can click through these menus, right, guys? Don't mind me. So like I said, the passive, it applies Insane and it heals based on Insane and Sight. So at level 3, we're going to actually make a distinction between which way we're kind of going here. But level 2, Chilling Gaze is fun, but it's just not consistent enough. I would say Chilling Gaze has a higher ceiling, but a much lower floor, because it only lasts 1 turn, than Night Terror. Night Terror is very consistent. You put it up on the Elite, especially if you're running, elites. We all know that those guys are hard to bring down. So this minus 20 resists for 7 attacks is a big deal. And also, if you have like a Maluka on your team, or any way to apply 1 more dark, this will proc dark. As you can see, that's going to be 24 dark just by hitting them 7 times. So any single dark application will pop the dark on this as well. So this is just a very stable, I want to bring down a heavy target card. So it's really nice. I basically will always go Night Terror. It's fun to play with Chilling Gaze, but like I said, the floor on it is just so much lower. Between level 3 is a big step. I've actually played both of these on high difficulties and have found a space for both of them. I'd say Resourceful is more finesse and you can have a lot more fun with it, but Mind Devour is very straightforward, and I actually enjoy Mind Devour just because there's less steps involved. But Resourceful, the fact that there's a lot of useful skill cards. And this is where that expected prophecy conversation comes in. If you're planning on going Resourceful, keeping the expected prophecy is nice, because having 2 expected prophecies and any other skill card in your hand, like a Dispel Magic, means that you're going to proc this all 3 times, you're going to draw a lot of cards, and you're going to apply a lot of Sight to your enemies. And remember, Sight is healing, and also depending on your items, Sight will also be debuffs. And Nezglekt has a lot of support on items for both either Sight or Insane. So remember, it's Resourceful who will apply more Sight, whereas Mind Devour, it'll trigger your Mental Leech again, which applies Insane. And remember, this 1 Insane is then pumped by your perks. So it's not just 1 Insane to all monsters, it's multiple Insane. So doing it twice just means any of those insane proccing items will proc an additional time. So both of these are viable. There's absolutely no reason anyone should give you flack for picking one or the other. Biggest thing is you just got to make sure you're building your deck around it, making sure you have those one-cost skills to make Resourceful really good, and or that you're playing off this insane stacks for the Mind Devourer. Level 4, I haven't really played with Fated Future. My biggest issue is it only lasts 2 turns, and you don't get to use it the first turn you play it. It's only the next turn and the turn after, and you have to make sure you hit a big card with it. So it's really good. I could see a good use for it for any like corrupted or vanishing big spells like the Mesmeric Barrage, you know, the 7-cost, hit everyone, insane. Like that would be a really good use for Fated Future. And I could definitely see playing that. I would just make sure that if I'm playing Fated Future, I'm relying on playing these big, heavy-cost Vanish cards. I don't want something stuck in my deck that I can't play later because I was relying on Fated Future to play it. You know what I mean? Especially if you get to the final boss and you have very long rounds. So Fated Future is good if you got 1 or 2 just really big Vanish, Bomb, hit everyone cards. Otherwise, the Chosen One is very easy to execute. You're going to cast 5 spells. You're going to get vulnerable in the entire team. And Sight and Insane stacks just, hey, no matter which way you're going, Sight or Insane, you're going to get your debuffs on them. It gives you powerful. The team's vulnerable. Like, there's nothing wrong with this card. You know what I mean? Like, this is a very stable card. And then level 5, Omniscient is probably the, like, incubation. There's no thinking required. But I'd say Omniscient is most of the time going to get you more bang for the buck, just because +3 sight charges is a big deal. And if you have any way to use the either Inspire or Buffer, you're probably getting enough value out of this to beat out the Tadpole. But, I mean, the Tadpole's fun. Both of these, very viable. I kind of went on those talents a lot because Nezglekt's a new hero. So I apologize if that was a little long. Let's go to items, though. So there's lots of items. I'm not going to talk about them. By items, I mean Oculi. In the starting town, Oculi is basically a must because Clairvoyance, I'm going to apply 1 sight and 1 insane to everyone, but with your perks, hello perks, that's going to, of course, be 2 of each. So I would say Oculi is definitely worth the pick up in the starting town. It just amplifies your healing so much. And yeah, that should be everything for Nezglekt. Hopefully this video is informative. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer them, and I will catch you in the next video. Peace.